Alright, so where I left off last, we had gotten this little board set up here where we have a bunch of items, and I believe I could be able to type and create them. I do, and they pop down here. I think the list is getting too long now. Yeah, that you can't even see them. B, C, or maybe like there's an action in error. So we're just going to continue off where we left off. Cannot read property ID of undefined. Encountered two children with the same IDs. Alright, so all kinds of problems. I thought we got this working. And refreshing. Okay, I thought I broke it. And I don't see the new ones that I created. So I'm going to go ahead and we can see what the errors are in the back end here. Can't read property ID of undefined for create suggestion in our baklava resolver. So I'm going to go ahead and open up this code in Visual Studio Code and we can check what's going on. So this is going to be create suggestion resolver. So go to resolvers. So this is going to be create suggestion user ID. Oh, it's been a week since I've logged in, so our login session has expired. So let's log back in. I have no idea what I used for my login. I always create like a Bob user account when I'm programming, so I'm gonna assume I made it here. Submit. No idea if that worked. We didn't put confirmation into this. I don't think. I should really add that though. Why does it take so long to load that? That's weird. Bob. Alright, we see Bob at the bottom, so that was a problem. So this is all good and well. Let's do that first thing that I was talking about though. When I first log in, if it's a successful login, I'd like to get redirected. So let's put this here, put Chrome here, put the terminal there. Alright, so this is going to be in our login page here. So if there is a token and a refresh token, that means we successfully logged in. So I'm going to say if token and refresh token, I want to redirect. And I guess for now we'll redirect to the home page, which is just that. And to redirect, we're going to be using the history that we get passed in the props. This.props.history. And so we're going to do slash, and that'll take us to the home page. Now, this history is passed in thanks to React Router, and we come over to our index here for login. To be able to get that, we just have to get the props here, pass the props in. Alright, so now let's see what a bad and a good login looks like. I want to go to slash login. When that boots, okay. So Bob, this is a bad login. We get invalid login here. Good. Now if I actually type it correctly, submit. This.props.history is not a function. Okay, so something wrong is happening because we should have those props passed in through this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to that page, login, and I'm just going to console.log props. Oh, no I'm not. I'm supposed to push. I was doing it wrong. So it probably worked. I was just doing it wrong. So Bob at bob.com. Bob's the password. And bam. Alright, so we successfully now redirect users when they log in. That's nice. Now, I want to work on the layout of this page too. So I should be able to create new boards, and I should see multiple boards on a page. Now, if you guys remember, I'm using Material UI to get these components here. But the thing about Material UI is it actually doesn't have anything to help with laying out stuff. And I'm not very good at CSS, so what I like to use is this thing called Flexboxgrid. So let's just open up Material UI and go to Components in case we want to do any more components. Have that open. But this Flexboxgrid is what I'm going to use. So if I go to their GitHub page, and what this allows us to do is basically make grids with our stuff. And just like with grids, you can basically make whole layouts. If you look at many layouts, they're basically all grids. We'll just have a grids inside of grids. So now we can install Flexboxgrid here just through npm or through yarn. So I'm going to say yarn add this library. And now in my index page, and now just so you guys know, this is just adding CSS classes. So then I'm going to then add these classes right here to my code. And now I'm going to have to import that. And now importing this is a little bit interesting because it's Flexboxgrid is the name of the component, but we actually need to go into, we're not importing this like a regular JavaScript module because it's actually CSS that we want. So we have to go into the distribution folder, and then there is a folder with CSS in it. And if we just go into node modules, we do not need to see all of those. Node modules and what was it called? Flexboxgrid. Flexboxgrid, distribution. We can see we want to get this min CSS. Flexboxgrid min CSS. Flexboxgrid.min.css. And then that'll be imported into our project, so we can now use that. So now on my home page here, we're rendering a single board. But I want to refactor this now. And I'm going to refactor it by the home page is going to fetch all the boards and then feed that data into board. So instead of our board component here being the one that is fetching the board, we're going to get rid of that. So we don't need compose anymore. So we're not going to be fetching by an ID anymore. Instead, we're going to just pass in boards. Alright, so name and suggestions. So const board, and then board will have a name and suggestions. We shouldn't have to do default values because we should get that, and then we'll get this dot board. So we're getting the name and the suggestions now from the props, and we're getting this board prop. So we need to actually pass that in. Everything else should be good though. This mutate should work the same way, but now we're gonna have to, our update function is gonna be different because now we're gonna update a different thing. Parsing token, that's fine. Okay, so in our queries, instead of get board, what I want to do is get all boards. So graphical. And actually this will be on 3030 because that's where my GraphQL server is. Alright, so I want to grab all boards. And it doesn't look like I have that, so I'm going to pop over here to my backend and create it real quick. So a query called all boards. And it's just going to return a list of boards. And we're just going to come into our resolvers here. And now we can copy get board and do all boards. And we can actually, there's nothing we have to change here, because we're going to do a join monster for this as well. And now we can come into join monster and we're going to get all boards. And we don't even need a where clause. Actually, yeah, I don't even think we need to do anything here, because I don't need a where clause because we're getting everything. It's just a total grab from the database. Where's the resolver I wanted? Here there. Yeah, I think this is good to go. We're doing find. We should be querying and finding all the boards. So I'm going to just test this out real quick and make sure it's working how I like before I actually call in the front end. So all boards, and from here I can get ID, name, and suggestions. In suggestions I can get ID and then text. Alright, so cool. Looks like we have one board here with a bunch and that's it. So an ID, name, we're getting everything and we're getting an array of it. So I'm going to copy this and we're going to come over here and I'm going to do an export const all boards query. And I want to change the name of this. See how the name here is it's just name the same name here? That conflicts with stuff. It makes our update function have to be a little different. I like this, it's a little cleaner. If I do this, add query at the end for naming these. Okay, so now this is the query I want to execute on this home page. So that's good. We're going to import GraphQL from React Apollo. And then here, we're going to have to create our component const home is equal to this. And at the bottom here, we'll export default GraphQL, passing in our query that we want to run. Query we want to run is all boards query. And this goes up a directory and it's going to be in queries. All boards query, and then pass in our component home. And so now here, we should be getting a data object, and I'm going to create a div here. And then all we're going to do is we're going to say data.allBoards. And now this should be an array of boards given back to us, and we're going to map. And then for each board, which we'll call B, we're going to render a board component with the key being b.id, and the board is going to be B. Alright, so that looks good. This guy's complaining, unexpected token, import as default, not sure what that's about. Missing prop type validation. I'm going to go ahead and turn this rule off in my ESLint because I don't plan on doing prop types just because they slow me down. Did I get the, no I didn't. React, prop types. This is how you turn off ESLint rules you don't like or don't want to follow. Alright, now we can close that. Alright, so we're grabbing the board and we're passing the board into here. Let's see if that renders. Cannot read property map of undefined. At first it's going to be all undefined, so what I'm going to do is set a default value of an empty array. That way we don't get undefined. Now let that refresh. Can't read property name of undefined. So board is undefined. So I'm going to come over here and I'm just going to console.log this.props so we can see if it's getting passed in properly. There's board and then there's mutate. So there's board. Wait, it's there. We have board here, name. So board name suggestions. That looks like it's there, okay. And that's why. I was just expanding it improperly. That's better. Now if we let that refresh, it should work. So I either put the board here, I put the board here. I shouldn't do it both. Alright, so this looks good, but our suggestion here is not going to be working. And the reason for that is, you'll notice in our update, what we're doing is, the query we're doing is get board. The query now should be all boards query. So that's the query. It doesn't have any variables, so we can get rid of that. Oops. So all boards query. And now we're going to say new data dot get board dot suggestions. This will be all boards dot query. And we actually need to pass, we need to loop through this and find what board position we are, or we can pass it in the props. So I think that's what I'm going to do. So come back here. This will just be, make it faster if I pass in the index, so I know exactly which guy I am. Actually, what am I doing? Actually, yeah, that's right. I was like, because I thought I was creating a board at first, but I'm not. All I'm doing is updating a suggestion in a board, so I need to know which board I'm updating. Now I could loop through and check the IDs, but that's slower if I just know the exact index. So we're getting the exact index, we're getting the suggestion, and then we're pushing that suggestion on here. And now what I can do is actually do all boards query here. Actually, no, that's fine. I thought for a second I could change this, but I can't. Alright, this looks good now. Let's try running that and make sure it works. So now I'm going to try adding this suggestion. Cannot read property 0 of undefined. Oh, this should be all boards. So our query is called all boards, but if you actually look at the query, it's called all boards here, and all boards needs to match what this value is. Okay, so we should see. I would have thought last would have showed up, but for some reason it didn't. So first, bad request, board ID required, but none was provided. All right, let's look at why this is happening. Oh, we're looking at the props for the board ID. We should be looking at board.id now. Okay, now we see first, cool. So now this is correctly refactored. So now what this will allow me to do is create more boards, and then we'll see the boards just like kind of like take over their individual things. And before I create a function, so let's pass in here. Let's write a commit message real quick. Refactor board component to pass a board in. So now what I want to do is create one more board just using this. Just so we can get how it should be laid out. And then once we fix that, or get the layout how we want it, I'm going to do programmatic access of creating boards. Okay. Okay, I would have thought the board showed up. It could be, okay, the board's at the bottom here. So it did show up. What I want is more of like a side-by-side view. And that is where this comes in, our Flexbox. So I'm going to create rows here. And I think I'm going to make rows of 4. And can't remember if I have a Lodash in here. If not, we're going to grab Lodash because I love Lodash. Import should be listed. Okay, it doesn't look like I have Lodash. So I'm just do yarn add Lodash. So I want columns of 4, or rows of 4. So I'm going to say const row is equal to boards, and then I. And what we're going to do is map the boards here. And this is going to be class name is going to be row. And then, let's see. We're going to wrap this board now in a div. Well, okay, first let's show you guys why I'm doing this. That way I can do lodash.chunk, passing in all boards. Now in groups of 4. Now, chunk does exactly what you think it does. It basically just takes an array and groups them into fourths. So then I'm going to map that to row. That way in our row here, we'll have rows of 4s. And to have rows of 4, we'll put row. And we want each to be of the same, call size. So we're going to copy this. We're going to say div class name is equal to that. I'm going to do 3s. That way it evenly splits up. And now for I is not this simple. Now I is going to have to be I think it's I times I2 just to get the position. Because, well, let's think about it. So I is going to be 0. So 0, and this can be 1, 2, 3. Nope, I think it's just I plus I2. We might have to fix that later if we get a problem. This is going to be boards now. And is there anything else? This is good. Expected assignment. Okay. Data is missing in. Hey, I put this in React/prop types. React/prop types. Misspelled. I was like, I added that to the ESLint file to ignore it. Okay. Now, let's see what this looks like. Okay, so now we have it in fourths. If I go ahead and create a bunch of these things, just to show you guys, they're all called second boards. They're all nicely sectioned into fourth. Cool. And now let's make sure this works. Oh, that one didn't work. I tried doing B here and the B went there. So we're doing something wrong. It's going to be times then. I don't really want to. I'll go ahead and do the math if it doesn't work on this one. Oh, it won't work on this one because I is going to be 0 at first. So it's all going to be 0. I think it's going to be I plus 1. No. Okay, let's just do the math. Okay, so we have 0, 1, 2, 3. So this is what I2 is going to be. Oops. I2. And in this grouping, we're going to have 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. So I2 is going to be equal to 0, then it's going to be equal to 1, then it's going to equal to 2, then it's going to equal 3, and here it's going to equal 4, and so on. Or no, it's not. Here, let's copy this. It's going to repeat itself. It won't let me copy easily. That's a shame. Okay, and this is I is going to be 0 for this group. I is equal to 1. So what I need to do is come up with a formula where we do something with I and I2 and it equals this value. So for the first one, if we do I plus I2, it works out. The problem is when we get to this, it should then now be 4. Oh, it should be 4 times I plus I2. Comment you out. Let's put this at the top for a nice little formula that we created. Unexpected mix of no mixed operations. Why are they mixed? I don't know. I don't care. So now if I do this one, this one, this one, probably should have been doing different letters to be sure, but it looks like now we're working good. Yeah. Alright, so now we can add stuff to all the boards correctly. And we have all the boards laying out nicer. And we can scroll down to see more boards. So now we have a bunch of boards. What do we want next? I guess now is a good time. Okay, so there's two things pertinent. One, how do you create boards? Two, how do you create, or how do you vote? I want to be able to vote on these and show the value of the vote. And I want it to be real time too. So you can see the votes just go up and down as people are doing them. So that's going to be cool. The voting thing is going to take more work, so let's do creating a board first. What I'm thinking is I'll just put a pop-up and they do fill out like a dialogue. So this is a terrible design, but like I told you guys, I am not a designer at all. What we'll do is we'll go ahead and I'm just going to have a button at the top to trigger this. And I'm going to have to create this into a regular class. So I'm going to say class home extends react.component. Render function. And in a render function, we'll return this. And then we can say const this.props. Alright, let it reformat. It won't. Why? I don't know why it's not liking this. But just keep coding. State. Here we're going to have open dialog is equal to false. But then when they click on the button, it'll be true. There we go. Sometimes when you just continue coding, my editor will fix itself. And now you see the problem is there's a semicolon there. Okay, so when I click on this raise button, it's called on touch tap is what it's called. This is the on click version for Material UI. We're going to say this.setState open dialog is equal to true. And then what we'll do is we'll actually display a dialog. So this is a button they have. What I will do is I'm actually going to create, let's put it at the bottom. That makes more sense. I mean, the dialog is going to be hidden anyway, but this will be create board dialog. And then we'll import that from components, create board dialog, and then let's go create that. Create board dialog. Forgot to put .js. We're going to have to keep state in this, so I'm going to make this a class. And we'll have a state, and the two things we're going to have are the name. Actually, I think it's only name is what you can do for a board. We'll automatically get your user ID based on the token that we're storing for you in local storage. So let's put their dialog here. We're gonna have to add a text field, that's fine. open is going to be this .props.open dialog. Actually, you know what? This .props.open is fine. Then we pass in that in to be this .props.open dialog. Okay. Dialog with actions. We have this actions things. Modal is false. I don't know exactly what it means by modal. Does it tell us force user to use one action dialog? Clicking outside the dialog will not trigger. Okay, that's fine to have it false. Open, on request, close, handle close. So we're going to call handle close. In here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say this dot set state, put name is going to be equal to empty, so to clear it, and then I'm going to call this dot props dot handle close. And then we'll handle close here. We'll say this dot set state open dialog equal false. Actually here, I'm going to call this handle, I'm going to call this toggle open. And this will take whatever the state currently is, and we'll say state.open dialog. It'll be the opposite of what the value is. Okay. So when I call toggle open, it's going to take whatever the open dialog is and do the opposite of it. That makes sense, right? Yeah. I mean, we will never call that from here. It'll always be handle close. So we'll just say, call it close dialog. Put this to false. So there we go. In our create dialog, so this we'll call close dialog, and then we also need a handle OK. This is if they fill out the form. Is it this one? No. There's one with like a field in it. Yeah. Custom with. Yeah, we want cancel and submit. So let's copy their actions. They have flat buttons. It's good with us. On touch tap, we'll handle close. On submit, we're going to handle OK. Primary is good. This will be submit. This will be cancel. Handle OK. Here, we're going to actually do a mutation to actually create the board. And then we close the dialog, reset the state. That's good. And actually, this is repeating code, so I'll just go ahead and call handle close. So after we do a mutation, we'll just close. So these are our actions. Actions they're getting in here. That's good. So we should see these two now. We need to actually import flat button. I'm surprised we're not getting an error. We need to import dialog and flat button. We also need to import GraphQL from React Apollo. And we're going to have to import. This will be create board mutation from going up one, going into mutations. We haven't created this mutation yet, but we will. And then at the bottom here, we're going to export default, calling GraphQL, create board mutation, passing in our create board dialog. Alright. This is looking good. We need to create this function. I'm surprised it's not barking at us. Here we need to go ahead and mutate, which would be this.props.mutate. We need to pass in variables. The only variable we're going to pass in is the name. So this.state will have that. And then we're going to have an update function. So we need to go ahead and get the all boards query from queries. We can go ahead and copy the suggestion update because it's basically going to be the same thing. So we got a store. Alright, and const new data store.read query. Alright, so now instead of creating a suggestion, all we're doing is we're adding a new board on. The board's going to have a name equal to this.state.name. And we need to await this, so let's make this an async function. Actually, we don't need to await this. State is equal to this. We don't have to make this async, that's fine actually. We can call handle close right away and close the dialog. But it's important, I didn't want to reset the state here and make it null and then use it here. So I'm going to grab the state here and just save it. So state.name, and then suggestions is going to be equal to an empty object. And you know what? We don't even have to worry about creating this here. We should be getting it from our data object. Data.create board. So we could just say create board.create board. I think should have it, and I'm going to console.log create board to make sure. We haven't actually created this mutation yet, create board mutation. So let's go ahead and do that, and it might change how our code is here, but for the most part, I think this looks pretty good. Actually, we forgot a big thing. Let's do that. I knew I was forgetting something. We have to do text fields. Well, one text field. So I like this one. So I'm going to just paste that in there and go ahead and get the import. Get rid of that. We should not have equal true. It's the same thing as this. It's just putting primary on there. Hint text, this will be name. Floating label, we'll just do the same thing. Value is going to be this dot state dot name. And then on change is going to be equal to e. And we're going to do this dot set state. Name is equal to e dot target dot name. And sorry, that should be value. Now let's go ahead and create this mutation. Create board. So we can put this at the bottom here. Export const. And I don't think I actually have the code for it yet, or the backend code. Let's see. So notice how we're passing in the owner. We should only have to pass in the name. So let's go ahead and fix that from our schema. And we should be picking up the owner from kind of like how we're doing create suggestion here. We know what the creator ID is because we're passing that in the context, because we actually know who the user is because we're passing a JWT token in. So for us, owner is going to be user.id, and we're grabbing user from the context here. And that's why you saw it crash at the very beginning of this, because we were not a user, or we weren't logged in. So you need to be logged in to create stuff. So we're going to have to, we're going to have to create some authentication logic to make sure people are not logged in and doing stuff, because then they're going to cause errors. So let's go ahead and put name here, which is just a string. So name, which is going to be name. And from that, we should get everything. Prettify, get name, and get the suggestions. Go ahead and copy that. Create board suggestions, copy this here. Also good to note, this is actually, I think, going to fail because suggestions is going to be empty, or going to be null, and it shouldn't be null. And the reason for that, when we create the board here, it doesn't have any suggestions. It doesn't know if suggestions exist. So what we're going to do is this. I'm going to say async const board. This is what we get back, and we're going to just return whatever board is, and then suggestions is going to be an empty array. And we just need to await this. Alright. Now we're good to go. And let's see if this works. We just did a lot of coding with not checking, so looks like we're going to have to restart the server just because it can't find the file. This looks good. Just close down some of these tabs. We don't need all of them open. Server's still, yep, just booting up. Look at all this SQLize code that's getting run. Or SQL code, not SQLize. SQLize is running it. The other thing I want to do is do optimistic UI on this, so let's go ahead and add that real quick. And it's going to be a copy and paste from this. This is going to be called create board. The type name is going to be board. The ID is going to be -1. The name is going to be whatever state.name is. And then, what's this last one? Suggestions. It's going to be an empty array. Alright. So, coming to the home page here, let's make this full width. Make it primary. It's already primary, but let's do it like that. Label is going to be create board. And it looks like the refresh didn't get triggered. It's not refreshing. Did I not save this? No, I did. It's just not refreshing for whatever reason. So now we should see the bar. Alright, there we go. There's create board across the top. I'm assuming the GraphQL query is still loading. Yeah. Alright. Let's go ahead and run this. And test it out. Did we break everything? Let's go to our console. Yeah, we did. We're infinitely recurring. So let's see what's going on. So we're not setting the state. It could be text field that's causing it. Let's make sure text field is, on change is legitimate. I know because sometimes they change what it's called. I'm not setting the state anywhere else except on these callbacks. It's got to be in home, on touch tab, set state. Close dialog. I have no idea why we infinitely recurred. Warning, set state cannot update during existing state transition. Alright, so something we're doing drastically wrong here. I'm not gonna do this component here. We're gonna try not rendering it and seeing if that's the problem. On touch tab, we're setting the state. There's got to be something in create dialog that's just like, oh. Notice I'm using props open dialog. This should be state. That's probably what's causing it. And it looks like it is. And also we need to set a key here. The unique key for this group is just going to be the index. Alright, let's refresh this. I was being silly. I guess when you pass in null as open, it craps out. Nope, still infinite rendering, so it wasn't because I was passing in null here. Though we're passing it right here. So create dialog, there's something wrong. Actions, modal, open. This props open, this handle close. Okay, so we're only setting state here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say console.log handle okay. Oh. Might just have to do this. I think those functions are just getting called. They shouldn't be getting called yet. That might not be it. But I just have like a suspicion it is. If that doesn't work, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put console logs in every place I'm setting the state. Alright, it didn't work. Then we can see which function is causing it. Close. Okay. I don't think it's on change, so I'm just going to get rid of it. And then I can always add it back. If it was causing it, we can see why it's causing it. Alright, it's none of my functions, it looks like. This might be inside of update during existing state transition. Constructor side effects are an anti-pattern but can be moved. The component will mount. I think this is something wrong with the actual material UI. Because we're not calling OK. We're not calling state. Material UI is calling state infinitely for some reason. And I believe it's because of our dialog here. So false will render the dialog, else we'll just render hello. We should see hello and not infinitely render. Go Starbuck asks, is GraphQL a complete solution for a backend or is it just a query interface? It is just a query interface, so I can show you what I have. This is my backend right here. It's running on an Express server, so you see Express here. And then, so I have that, I create an Express server, and then down here, I create a GraphQL endpoint. And then I have a PostgreSQL database, and here are the models for all of them. And then I have resolvers where I'm resolving fields, and basically all I'm doing here is doing database queries to pass the data. So I still need a database, I still need a server. It just is in between those two layers. Okay, so let's see what's going on with this. We're infinitely recurring still. It's not the dialog. It's something else. Oh, no, it could be. Have that go. No, still same thing. Okay, so it's not my dialog. I don't think. Alright, just to make sure. Yeah, no problem. H1. I thought when I commented this guy out in my home page, it did not infinitely do this. So I was expecting the dialog to be the thing that's causing it. Nope, okay, so dialog is just not what's causing this. Oh. This is a function. I was being so noob. Close dialog is being called infinitely. Alright, solved it. Let's get rid of this. We gotta put our code back. Now we can test and make sure this dialog is working. And I don't know why it auto-formatted to put a semicolon there. What the heck? I want my dialog up here, I guess. There we go. There we go. Now it renders correctly. And there we go. Now hopefully we don't render forever. No way. I'm using a function now. I must be doing it here too. No, I'm not. I kind of feel like it's cached or something because I really think that was what the problem was. Just to make sure I'm not. Nope, it's spinning. No, it's not spinning. Each child in an array should have a unique key. I thought I changed that. This has a key. Oh, I need to put the key here. b.id instead of the key here. Delete 2 port. So alright, so we know the problem was just that. Sometimes it does that where it caches the past query you've done. So that's why it was still broken. Hopefully now it'll refresh itself and be okay. Looks like it's good. Go ahead and pop this up. Dialog with actions, I should change that. But let's try. Dialog board. Submit. Alright, we get an object back with create board. That looks good. Field suggestions of type must have a selection of subfields. Did you mean suggestions ... Okay. So here we just learned a lot of good things. First, we should change this to be create a board. And I'm going to say save instead of submit, I think. What the heck, let's capitalize it. Nah, let's not capitalize it. And then in our mutation here, suggestions, we need to get the ID and the text. But either way, I think, no, we actually it wouldn't have fired. I thought it was a problem with our update function. It wasn't. All right, so create a board. Hi, hit save. Cannot return null for nullable field board.id. All right, hi shows up. Cool. So mutation, we're asking for the board. We're asking for the ID. So we should not get nullable for the ID. Create board. I was printing it out. Let's just do this again. The ID is -1. This is not null though. Cannot return null for non-nullable field board.id. I think what's happening is in our back end here, when we're doing create board, for whatever reason, board doesn't have an ID. So let's console this guy out to see. This is very odd. I would have thought an ID would be there for sure. Refresh. I think I just made a change on the server, so the server is restarting. So now if I come over here, I can see the logs. So insert into boards, again, ID. Okay, I need to do .data values, I think. .data values. You can see all that other nasty stuff that gets printed out. That's all SQLized object metadata that it gives you back when you insert stuff in the database. Okay. Again, my server didn't restart fast enough. All right, F. All right, bam. Now we should see F down here, and we do. So cool. Now we can create boards and have them show up here. what I want to do next is voting. I'm going to remove this console log because we don't need any more. We know it's right. But what I want to do next is voting. So the idea behind this is suggestions. Okay. Suggestions here, all of them will have a little upvote area you can click on and vote on them, and then we'll have a little counter next to each one where you can upvote in real time. We also need to keep track if you've upvoted on things. That way you can't just keep upvoting. But okay, this is good progress. We're able to create boards now, and we can make tons of boards on the screen. So I think that's it for this stream today. What I'm going to do next stream is do voting. We're going to do GraphQL subscriptions with that, so that'll be interesting with WebSockets. So we'll see stuff update in real time. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next week.